Hello everybody, welcome to Friends List. My name is Christopher Thomas Plante. I'll be your host today. I'm joined by my pal, my friend, my favorite coworker, Ben Kuchera. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm feeling great. How are you?
You know what, I'm feeling great too, because I'm talking to you. And we may have spoken a little bit before this episode, but I'm going to say it again. You're my favorite person to talk to because your ideas are crazy. Sometimes I agree with them, and sometimes I don't agree with them, but overall, they shock me. and that is what I look for whenever we have these conversations. So I could not be happier to have you on today because we are talking about Epic and the new Unreal Tournament. Do you want to tell everybody the big news about Unreal Tournament?
So here's what's going on. Epic is bringing back Unreal Tournament, which for old fogies like me who grew up on PC gaming, that is amazing news, and we're excited. Here's the interesting bit. They're basically putting a very small team of Unreal people on the project. It's going to be made in Unreal Engine 4, and the rest of the work is going to come from modders, from the amateur coding community, from fans who want to give them ideas. This isn't crowdfunding where they're asking the fans to pay for the game. This is almost crowdsourcing development where they're asking fans to make the game, which is something we haven't really seen before, and it's a really interesting approach for a project like this.
Now, I'm going to try to provide some context for people who might not know everything that's happening at Epic. You might know Epic as the company that made Gears of War, a property that they recently sold to Microsoft. In the past, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years, they've lost a lot of their senior staff. Well, a number of important players in their senior staff. They've lost Cliff Bleszinski, who created Gears of War, Mike Capps, who was kind of like an executive within the company, Rod Ferguson, who some people describe as the closer, the person who makes sure that the game gets done. He went on to do BioShock Infinite at Irrational, and now actually is working on Gears of War for Microsoft in Vancouver. And they still have some key players there. They have Mark Rain, who is their businessman sort of figure, and Tim Sweeney, who has been making the Unreal Engine all this time. So while a lot of people know Epic as the company that makes Gears, they also make the Unreal Engine, which, especially in the previous generation of consoles, powered a lot of big-name video games. But there's a weird thing happening right now where, fewer ultra-budget games, and a lot of publishers like EA and Ubisoft are creating their own internal engines. So they're not licensing engines, which was a big breadwinner for Epic in the past. So this kind of falls at a strange time. And I'm curious what you think that kind of has to do with the context, essentially.
You know, it's a big question. We're going to really have to look at what is going on with the industry and engines in total to kind of make sense of this. But I think one of the simpler things is there's really no market for a game like Unreal Tournament anymore. That kind of arena-focused, skill-based first-person shooter is all but dead. People want their Call of Duties. They want their Battlefields. They want to level up. They want to get new pieces of kit. They want something persistent. Like, even Titanfall, the more you play, the more powers and everything you get. Where with Unreal Tournament, your character is your character. You have to find new abilities on the battlefield and use weapons and placement. And it's very much like a chess game more than it is, a linear progression. So I think a big part of this is they just couldn't find a publisher that'd be willing to pay for a new version of Unreal Tournament because it seems like such an anachronism. So this is a way to get the fans to help create the game. And if it takes off, I think they said their plan was to create a sort of marketplace where people can sell their skins and their maps and their mods, and then Epic skims a bit off the top and everyone makes money. If it doesn't, and no one is interested and it kind of fizzles, they're not out that much money. They have a small team of internal people working on this. The rest of it is crowdsourced. And if nothing else, they got people like us and every gaming blog and news source to talk about it and talk about Unreal Engine 4 and talk about Epic Games. Just in terms of a PR win, this is really good. So I think that's kind of their strategy. They could potentially get a lot out of it. If everything fails, they don't lose a ton. It's a really safe bet.
Sure. I as a gamer, I'm still not sure how I feel about someone who's going to maybe play this game one day. But I do think from the business angle, it's kind of a brilliant strategy. And really for two reasons. The first is that they need to get people developing in Unreal Engine 4, and this is a way to attract a lot of people to do that. A lot of people who modded in the past have gone on to become developers, and getting people excited about Unreal Engine 4 through something that they have some nostalgia for, and getting them just making something in it could maybe persuade them to develop their next game in Unreal Engine 4. So it seems kind of like kind of bait. Maybe not meant to be as negative as that sounds, but something that is pulling people in and getting them learning this engine, getting them excited about the engine again. And Epic has done a few things to already, encourage that. They've lowered the price. I think there's a monthly lower price that you can pay to develop inside of Unreal Engine 4. So I think that's really fascinating, just to get people excited about the engine again. The other thing is Tencent, which is a Chinese company that is kind of like Facebook, kind of like Zynga, kind of just this online gaming empire. It does a lot of different things. Has a pretty huge or substantial share in Epic now. And it's interesting that they just might be getting Americans or Westerners or really anyone, I guess, in the world. I don't know if there's any limitation for who can develop this, to develop potentially a free-to-play game for this Chinese publisher that had tremendous success with free-to-play games. And maybe we should dig into that, because they're not wanting to call it free-to-play, and I'm curious what your thought is on the specific branding or wording that they want to give it.
Yeah, I think free-to-play has such a big stigma, especially among people who know and love Unreal Tournament. Like, if you say Unreal Tournament's going free-to-play, that has a large negative connotation. So they're calling it free, not free-to-play, just free. This is a 100% free game. And whenever a company, a for-profit company, a long-time big player in the video game industry tells you something is free, I think all of your bullshit detectors should start screaming at you. And you instantly have to start looking at what the cost is going to be for fans and the company, and what the value is going to be for those same two groups. We have to remember that this isn't a game yet. This isn't something you can download and play. This is like a fork on GitHub where development is starting. So the cost is, literally, you have to sit down and use your expertise and time to create Unreal Tournament. That's the cost for fans right now. They have to sit down and make the game, along with the small team of people at Epic. But there's opportunity there. The value is, if you want to learn by doing, you rarely get a chance to work on a project like Unreal Tournament that has a huge cachet. You'll be able to look at the code of other people's. You'll be working inside Unreal Engine 4, which is an incredibly marketable skill. So you'll be able to pick up almost as much as you put down in this situation. But it's really up to you to take something out of it as you're putting something into it. You have to proactively kind of put yourself out there and learn and make sure that you maximize the opportunity. And then the question is, once this is launched and it's something playable and people continue to work on it, like, is there going to be a market for people buying mods, for buying skins? Will people be creating that content and make a profit out of it? And this is something that's in the DNA of Epic Games. If you look at the first game that Tim Sweeney ever put together, it was called ZZT. It was created in 1992, and it was basically a tool set to create levels. Yeah. Like, the game that came with it was meant to be an example as much as it was a game. He was basically letting anyone who wanted to create ZZT content. And that's the first thing that Tim Sweeney ever did. So it's not like this is a new thing where they're inviting people to help make their games. This is how they started.
Yeah, I'm thinking how appropriate it is that the two people who are still there are Tim Sweeney and Mark Rain, because if you look back at Mark Rain's past, here's the guy who was encouraging, modders and garage developers. I mean, he was one of the early people helping out with id, the people who made Doom, and helped, introduce the world to Tim Sweeney. I mean, or Tim Sweeney to the world, but he's the kind of business side of that same prospect, right? Of getting people who aren't in the giant game scene yet to be in it. And it's funny that you would have the person who can make the tools and the person who does the promotions working together on a project that seems kind of perfect for that. I'm curious if they have psychologists and economic. Oh my gosh, when you want to say a word and then you economist. It's one of those days, Ben. But but that's like the big thing at Valve right now, right? Like getting these different viewpoints on how to make people feel comfortable essentially spending money. And there's something kind of unsavory about free to play where you feel manipulated and you feel like you're not part of the grand scheme outside of being, a vessel for them to collect money from. Well, here, maybe the game really is free, and then they're putting the onus on the modders, the creators, to charge, which they can, siphon a little bit of money off of. And that doesn't seem as bad in a weird way. I mean, that's kind of the Apple Store model, right? Like, make it easy for people to develop, and then you can make some money off of it. So I think that's fascinating that they have maybe found a way to make free-to-play not so gross.
Yeah, it's like, but on the flip side, you have to make the game. Like you're creating both the market and the content to sell on the market. It's a really interesting thing, and it's never really been tried before, as far as I know. So, and I've written about this extensively, and once you look at how people operate in the industry through these lenses, you see it everywhere. Everyone wants to own distribution. They want a BattleNet. They want Steam. They want, Eve United, which is what CCP is doing. They want to own a way to basically sell all of their games and content. They want one login to access all of their information. And they need an ecosystem where however people play in it, however you put something into it, you're creating value for the company. Whether it's monetary, whether it's creating an opponent for other people to play against, whether it's just taking your information from your login and your demographic information and then learning from it. We're starting to look at value in ways that aren't just monetary, and this has a lot of value for Epic. You are getting people to help make a game. You're looking at how amateur coders interact with Unreal Engine 4. You're giving really self-motivated coders experience in a large project, and hopefully, like you said, when they move on, they're going to make another Unreal Engine 4 product. So they're creating a lot of interactions with their properties. They're creating a lot of interactions with the press. There's a lot of ways just talking about it, just having people help to make the game creates value for Epic as a whole. So I think they're in a position where they can kind of look at the long game and gain a lot from this, even though it might not particularly or not yet be monetary. And I think that's a really, really smart thing to do.
Yeah. The only question I have at this point is what the hell is going on in Epic? It's a big company. It was built to, make these Gears games. If this is a small team, right, and then we have Fortnite, which I believe is being developed, at least in part, outside of their, main headquarters, and I can't imagine everyone's just working on the engine. There's something else there. I mean, I guess that's to be assumed that they'll have some other big, current generation now IP, or at least I think they will. But it seems like we still haven't seen the big announcement or two from Epic yet. I mean, does that seem fair?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what else is working there, to really dig into their books and see what all the talent they have is doing. And you're right, it does seem like, it doesn't seem like all the projects we know about are enough to keep everyone busy. Unless there's something we don't know, or a project we don't know. And I think that's the sort of thing that's really exciting to think about heading into E3. Because I think this E3 is going to be so dense with big announcements, with sequels, with reboots, with everything else. This is going to be a giant show. So I would love to see something big from Epic in that way. Because this isn't big. This is interesting. This is big in terms of it's a property that a group of PC gamers really loves. But in terms of like an actual big thing that a lot of people are working on and it's a AAA property, no, it's certainly not that. This is a modest bet from a company that seems like it's trying to get back to basics a little bit.
It's like the Kansas City Chiefs drafting Aaron Murray in a late round. Like, there's a lot of potential there, you guys. But, like, who knows? Gotta give it a few years. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl in 2017.
I don't know what any of that means.
Did I lose you? Is that what just happened?
It's like that once you go into the sports metaphor.
Oh, boy. Thanks for joining me today, Ben. Thank you all for joining me. One quick thing. We're going to try something new out this week and see how it goes, and maybe we'll just do it forever. at the end of each episode, kind of around this point, we're going to talk about comments and questions and ideas left in the comment section from the previous day's post. So right now you're let's say watching this episode about Epic and Unreal Tournament, and you have some ideas about how maybe we're very wrong or very right or just very in the middle, and then you would go and leave them in the comments. And then tomorrow, whoever's hosting, I think it'll be Russell Frushtick, will find some of his favorites, and she'll read them and discuss them on the show. Sounds like fun and easy, and a way for us to mention your name and give you shout-outs and props and love. So let's try it out and just see how much fun we can have. Until then, thank you again for joining me today, Ben.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me. As always, we are Friends List. We're here on Polygon.com, YouTube.com/Polygon, and you can find us on iTunes. We're called Friends List. You can subscribe. Do me a favor, if you like the new version of the show with this improved audio, leave us a review. That helps so much. I really would appreciate it. And after that, come back, listen to more episodes. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.